Hey everyone, we are here with Phil. Phil is the founder of Baton, and Baton was actually just awarded the Silicon Slopes 2022 Startup of the Year award, which congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. First off, Baton is not your first startup, right? Did you had something before Baton?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Cool. And then could you go into that a little bit? I know it was called Every Bank Bonus, if I'm not mistaken. So what was the inspiration for that? How'd you get started with that company?
Yeah. I would actually go so far as to say that my first startup was the BYU Scooter Club.
Mm,
That's probably what my first one was.
nice.
But I'm happy to talk about Every Bank Bonus because it was around the same time
Yeah.
as that. But yeah, everybankbonus.com. When I was in college, I didn't have a lot of money, so I was always looking for more ways to make money, whether it was donating plasma or else free food, the
Yeah.
lunchbox app. You'd go to all the different club meetings and get free food from
Yep.
things. Every bank bonus, I had the idea for it when I had an internship back home in Indiana. I was an accountant or an accounting intern at the time, and some of my accounting coworkers were always on the phone with banks, it seemed like.
Mm,
And at first I thought they had money problems. I'd be working from my cubicle and hear them, saying, no, you owe me this much money and I'm going to close my account now. They'd get upset for whatever reason. It was like, man, these guys really have money problems. But it turns out they were taking advantage of bank account sign up bonuses
mm,
and pocketing thousands of dollars every year from opening new
wow.
checking accounts with different banks.
Yeah.
And I was skeptical at first, but these guys had more education than me and were smarter than me, made more money. So I said, oh, maybe this is legit. So I opened a few bank accounts and I opened my first bank account and got, a few $100s for free. Thought I was nuts. So I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to open all these.
Huh.
So then throughout that whole internship, I opened a whole bunch of different bank accounts and made a few $1,000s and, you know, I guess bonuses from my internship because I would get paid every week, and a lot of these bonuses would require you to have a direct deposit go into your bank. So I'd
Oh, huh.
every week pocket a few $100s from
Oh,
Fifth Third
interesting.
Bank, Huntington Bank, Chase, U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, on and on and on. So I spent a lot of time researching these different accounts and finding out which bonuses I could qualify for because I didn't make much money as an intern.
Yeah.
So, maybe a quarter of all the bank bonuses that were out there I could actually take advantage of. So I started compiling them, categorizing them so I could
Mm,
just filter for myself. And then when I went back to BYU, I told my friends about this little escapade I did. And because I went back to Honduras where I served an LDS mission, and I also
okay.
went to Scooter Con in San Diego with my scooter friends with all this money I made.
Yeah.
So people were asking me, and then I was like, I should just build a website where people can, find the most relevant offers to them. And that's what it was. I recruited my friend who recruited his other friends, and then we built it, and it's a good time.
That's awesome. And it was Credit Karma, was that around at the time? Was that as big at the time?
Yeah, sure. Credit Karma
Okay.
was around.
And did that have any inspiration for like building like a website, where you kind of rifle through all the different offers that they have going on?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there are a
Okay.
lot of sites that focus on credit cards.
Yeah.
Credit cards are big money for banks, I learned. And checking
Okay.
accounts seem to kind of be the loss leader, right? They
Mm,
kind of want you, banks just want you in their ecosystem. And then if
yeah.
you have a checking account, they can sell you a credit card or a
Right.
loan or a mortgage or whatever. So, yeah. And there's also
Nice.
way more bank accounts than there are, like premium reward credit cards out
Yeah.
there.
That makes sense.
So, and there's
Yeah.
only so many airlines that give airline miles, right?
Right.
But there's thousands of banks. So,
And then, I mean, with at least for you personally, and maybe on the website, do you always keep closing down those accounts like those guys were at that first job? Are you closing down accounts constantly, or do you just have a lot of open accounts?
it depends. Most of the time, people will close them if they don't need them anymore.
Okay.
Sometimes checking accounts and savings accounts will have, monthly fees if you don't keep a
Oh,
minimum balance in there,
yeah.
or if you're not having a certain number of transactions. But there are still some accounts where you actually want to keep them open forever because you can get really lucrative referral bonuses
Mm.
from that.
Oh,
In
interesting.
fact, we actually funded making every bank bonus with our own bank bonuses. It was
Oh,
all
wow.
bank bonus funded. We
Hmm.
raised more than $5,000 just from, we would throw these pizza parties at BYU.
Yeah.
We'd create these flyers, and then we'd say, paid focus group, everyone come to this classroom at this time, get pizza and make $20 at least when you come to this place. And then
Yeah.
we would get like 50 or 60 students in this classroom. You'd see our flyers, and then we'd say, okay, here's the focus group. Just like, here's all of these bank accounts. Go ahead and open all of these from your phone real quick, and you'll get like $100 in free bonuses
Yeah.
right now. And then we'll also give you pizza and Venmo you $20. But then from that, like we'd get all those referral bonuses from
Yeah.
people opening the accounts, and then just raised a ton of money.
Wow.
A
That's
ton of money
amazing.
is relative.
That's cool. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I didn't want to spend too much time here. I want to, spend time on Baton. But what made you, or I guess how far did you get in growing it, or what made you decide to shift your focus away from this business?
Good question. We started out with big hopes, right? With everything. Like,
Yeah.
wow, how many people in the country have a bank account?
Right.
We could make billboards nationwide. Everyone's looking for free money. Man, this
Yeah.
could be amazing. But I kind of learned that as a content site, it's really competitive and kind of difficult. You have to constantly be. It's not like subscription SaaS, right? Where you sell
Yeah.
somebody and they keep coming back. Like
Right.
we had to constantly putting out content. We had to be trying to outrank other people, but which we kind of did. And we got hard linked in a subreddit called R churning,
Mm.
where people talk about bank accounts and credit cards and all that. So
Okay.
we got some consistent sources of traffic, but the amount of legwork it was going to take to like really optimize the site and do, just pump out a ton of content to get all the
Yeah.
traffic and optimize for all the keywords. There were four of us and all of us were part-time on this. So
Okay.
I was probably the most, invested in it because I had the biggest share of ownership, but
Yeah.
it was me, Matt, Bryce, and Jonathan were the four of us that were doing it, and then Matt, Bryce, and Jonathan were developers at PayPal or Microsoft or Blender Bottle. They all had their full-time jobs and they graduated and were like, well, I don't want to go home after work and do more coding after I
Yeah.
already. So that was something I learned at that
Interesting.
point. Like as big of the opportunity we could have justified for the site, we just didn't have I guess the level of commitment as a team to really push it forward. And I found myself frustrated with that. Like
Yeah.
in most of the pieces to grow the site required a lot of attention, which
Yeah.
was just too split. So at that point, I was like, you know what? The next business I start, I'm gonna do these different things better. I learned a lot. So
Interesting. And then, I mean, because you started this in college, so what was the gap between realizing every bank bonus probably wasn't going to be, scale like you wanted it to, and then deciding on Baton? What was kind of the gap between there?
with every big bonus, I decided it wasn't gonna get much bigger. I guess I had the impression early on, but then after a year or two, where it was really difficult to, bring our team around to get new features going
Yeah.
and all that, I was like, okay, I need to probably focus on something else. But after I graduated, I went and worked at GreenX Pest Control full
Okay.
time, and every bank bonus was on the side. But I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I was kind of looking for the right idea,
Yeah.
one that kind of matched my skill set, that a big opportunity that I was well suited to tackle, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people, there's a lot of ideas out there, but you shouldn't just chase after any of them, right? You should be really
Right.
particular about the biggest ones that you're best suited to tackle that are interesting. So when I was at GreenX, I saw that there are a lot of calls we were getting for services we didn't offer. Like someone would call in to our pest control company, but they would live in an area that was like we didn't service yet, or they'd need help with a raccoon problem, but we only serviced for mosquitoes and bugs. And, I was like, wow, we could just build a referral marketplace and we can refer these customers to other companies maybe. And I know how to build like build a sort of marketplace because I did it with every bank bonus. It's just, affiliate marketing is pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of at that point where I decided, this is a massive industry, and I already know how to build a website and I learned a lot about the business, so I'm going to try this and see if
Right.
it sticks.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, and that's again when you started Baton, I mean, that's something I feel like that's a theme on other podcasts that I've ran, is that honestly the best ideas typically come after you've spent some time in an industry. Like you said, there are lots of good ideas out there, but like how are you uniquely positioned to capitalize on the best ideas? And I feel like that's a theme, is somebody is working in an industry, they really intimately know the problem, and that's when they can make, a really excellent solution. And it sounds like that's what you did now with Baton. And so how did that look actually starting Baton? You're working at a company. It sounds like you had co-founders in your first one. Did you start off by yourself with a co-founder? How did that work?
Yeah, That was something I thought a lot. I was thinking really hard about when I started because I wanted to make sure that whatever co-founders I had could be equally committed to an idea. So, but before I got too committed with this will just tell the whole story, Baton. When I was at GreenX, I saw this opportunity. I was kind of nudged in the direction of this opportunity by a coworker there who, noticed it in the call center. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I could test, I wonder if this is something I'm suited for. So my wife was on a study abroad for 2 months that summer in 2019. So I put myself to figure out if I could make a MVP myself with
Nice.
it. I was like, I don't want to be beholden to, more tech co-founders as much as I love them, that like, I don't want to just be overly dependent on a technical co-founder right off the bat, especially if I don't need to. So I got the MVP set up, and then I talked to this guy in the call center who, was pretty impressed that I could spin something up like that. And he even helped me talk to some potential clients and make some initial connections to other pest control company owners to see if this kind of referral marketplace would have legs.
Yeah.
I got some initial buy-in, and I thought that this guy that I was talking to, I even recruited him to be a co-founder with me at first, and he was all bought in, at least in principle, right away. And then that fall was Pest World. So before I went all in on this, I needed to make sure there was really good validation. So I, spent $1,000 to go to Pest World in San Diego, and I bought a t-shirt and I pretended to have a booth at the place.
Nice.
I went around and would tell people, hey, have you guys heard of Baton? They'd be like, oh no, where's your booth? And say, oh, it's over there. So anyway, what we're doing is this, that, and the other. You guys interested?
That's awesome.
And I was only there for a day, but I got more than 20 business cards of interested companies. So I was pumped.
Successful, yeah.
Yeah, including some big companies too. I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
It was really, really awesome. So I came back and was fully committed to doing this thing right. So I took Startup Ignition, which is a 3-day startup boot camp. Wanted to make sure I wasn't just getting stars in my eyes, like, is this really a good idea, And it seemed to be. But then my co-founder, who I was going to do this with, ended up not joining with me at that time because he was making a lot of money at GreenX and had kids and didn't want to lose everything to take a big risk, right? So in April 2020 is when I decided we moved to Seattle, so I was going to quit GreenX anyway. So in April 2020, moved to Seattle for my wife's job, and I said I was going to go all in on this. And boy, it was pretty slow getting off the ground, and it was pretty difficult. But I did onboard my first clients with the MVP that I built myself.
Wow.
And since I used no code, I was iterating constantly based on feedback from customers.
And what tool did you use for that, by the way?
I considered several, but I ended up using Knack.
Okay.
It's just knack.com. You could find it.
Gotcha. Cool. Nice. And so you started, like you said, kind of sole founder. You decided you didn't want these tech co-founders quite yet, or you kind of had maybe some bad experiences with that with the first company, just that they might not be as committed. And so you might as well start out by yourself, see what you can do, see as far as it takes you. And so you got your first clients in Seattle. And then is that the point where you decided, okay, now I need some backup. I need somebody else in this company?
Yeah, it took me about a year before I got any backup with it. So from early 2020 was when we got our first clients on board to about March 2021 when I brought on my co-founder Cody. And during that first year, it was all just the first initial clients, getting them on board, tweaking the platform with no code and just getting feedback. And I was sort of working part-time with GreenX during that summer, but then it was kind of a struggle to get things off the ground. And I didn't want to bring on a co-founder or a CTO or anyone until I had validation. Yeah. So the first 6 months, I thought the idea for Baton was just going to be companies who had canceling customers who are moving to new states. Because, at GreenX, that was one of our biggest cancellation reasons. We were frustrated. We'd spend, $400 paying a sales rep to get a new customer, and they would move to a new state that we didn't service. We just say, see ya, right? Yeah. So I thought, wow, everybody's got, people are always moving. So every company's got these moving customers, et cetera, et cetera. But it turned out that people who are stressed out moving and won't be at their new home for months aren't in a position where they want to sign up for new service quite yet, right? If they're trying to cancel, you say, well, actually, you're canceling, but why don't I get you set up with another company right now? They're like, no, I'm trying to cancel everything. I don't want more problems. So we've revisited that, and it's working now in the business. But I ultimately determined, there's probably not, it's going to be hard to get this off the ground. But then I heard pest control companies saying, or at least at Greenix, they're so frustrated how they'd get all these calls for services they don't offer. It'd be frustrating to sales reps to just say, sorry, we don't do termites, or we don't do bed bugs, we don't do
Yeah.
this. It is like an immediate problem. The customer wants service right now, and the companies are literally paying for these leads that they're getting that they have to turn down. So it's like a really in-your-face kind of problem. So I was like, I wonder if this is a bigger issue. So then I talked to one of the pest control companies I connected with before, and he said right away, he was hesitant with the moving things, but he said right away, like, yes, I'll try this, like, set this up for me. So June 2020, I got the first customer doing that, and then September 2020 got our first big customer, and then in December 2020 got a really big customer all by myself doing everything.
Nice.
And at that point, I decided, I probably need to spend more time on the product and making sure things are going well, but I can't, like, as a network, we have to capitalize on the network effect, so I need help. And at that point, I actually reached out to you for help with a virtual assistant,
Yeah.
and you and Eric hooked me up, teaching me
Right.
all about that.
Yeah.
And then I recruited Cody to come on board, and he just dominated once he started, just
Nice.
selling tons and tons of companies.
Yeah. And how have you broken up that role? Because I know Cody, he focuses more on the sales business development side. Is that right?
Yeah, he does. He's like chief sales officer, I guess I'd call him.
Yeah.
Technically, he's COO, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, so, I mean, how are you guys still no code? I mean, did you eventually bring on some more techie people? How's that gone?
Finally, now in 2023, we hired a
Okay.
CTO.
Nice.
Yes,
Awesome.
last month. His name is Ian, and he's amazing.
That's exciting.
We're still built on no code
Okay,
after
cool.
all this time,
Wow.
and we are actively moving to get away from it, though.
Mm.
At least the no code stack that we have now.
Yeah.
We've kind of outgrown it.
Gotcha.
But I would 100. If given the chance to do it again, I would 100% do it the same way with no code,
Yeah.
because it has been immensely valuable for iteration
Right.
and spinning up new features.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I attended Startup Ignition as well, and had my own, as part of a validation company. And like you said, that's so key, especially in those early days of very quick iteration. And like you say, if you can do it on a no code platform, that's so easy. But a lot of people get stuck in like, okay, I want to build this solution, and they dump so much time and money into it. And then it's built, and now they're like, okay, now they're in that position where like, okay, we've focused on this feature of people moving, and like that's not actually the biggest value prop or the biggest, I guess, attraction to this market. We need to focus on, alternate services. And so for you, it was easy to make that switch, which is
Yep.
awesome.
It was very easy. I think I spun it up in 2 hours.
Wow.
I pivoted the whole thing. It was so
Yeah.
easy.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's fantastic. And so now you've gotten to a point where 2022, you're named Startup of the Year in Utah, which is very startup friendly state community. So congrats on that again. That's amazing.
Thanks.
And then how many people do you have in the company now?
In the U.S., we have 6.
Okay.
And then in the Philippines, we have more than 15
Nice.
this time.
That's awesome. That's exciting. And so,
Thanks.
so yeah, you've built this amazing company, and it took you a little while to really figure out what's going to work best for the company, how you guys are really going to have success in the market. And then you found a co-founder, Cody, and so and now you have a CTO. So what do you see as kind of the next steps for Baton? Like, where are you guys going from here? How are you guys growing even bigger?
Well, this year we're building to scale into the future. So our focus this year is growing our existing customers, keeping customers, and making sure the product is stable. So our VP of Marketing Client Success, Kylie, has done a really awesome job. We brought her on from a startup called Slingshot last year. She's done an amazing job helping us build out processes for our client success and marketing departments, and making sure customers are happy. And then Ian, he's building the platform on a completely new infrastructure so we can grow and expand beyond that. And our plan for growth this year is like it's integrations and making it way easier for companies to submit referrals through the platform. And then at the same time, while we kind of figure out our sales processes so that we have a scalable and efficient outreach program for next year.
Nice.
But we're also looking at channel partners too. So we built out our first integrations with different platforms that have a number of customers on them. Like we're talking to CRM companies in the pest control space, contact center companies as well, and kind of forming partnerships so we don't have to be as dependent on the hustle ourselves
Right.
to get more companies and get more hopefully inbound traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what we're focused on.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's so exciting. And for one question that I have for you, specifically with your journey, you mentioned, even early on, like you went to this, big conference and, persuaded people to give you their business cards and, pitch this company that wasn't very big, wasn't very established yet. So it sounds like you kind of had that entrepreneurial or fake it till you make it type attitude. What has been a struggle for you as you've gone from one company to another and now grown a successful company? What have been like some of the most challenging things that you've learned as part of that journey?
Some of the most challenging things. Well, for one, I guess I'll call out that the challenges are different in every stage of business growth so far. When it was just me figuring things out, it was just took a lot of humility, and I felt pretty scared. It was harder than it sounded in Startup Ignition to actually cold outreach to people when the whole business is just me. And it was really difficult. Well, the most difficult part at that time was that the business was a direct reflection of myself because I was the only one doing it and creating it. So everything I had touched.
Right.
And I felt like I was putting myself on the line more at that point. Once I kind of got over that hesitation and kind of embraced it, and I sound like I'm this confident, cocky person who goes to this trade show and just puts myself out there, but it was really scary.
Yeah.
But I kind of just had to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Then the next thing, once I had my business partner and started to hire people, I needed to I had to let go of certain things and give people responsibility over things because I started the business myself for that whole year to 18 months.
Right.
And I had never really managed people that much before or given them full autonomy over things. So I had to learn to really trust Cody and everyone else that's joined. And then after that, as we've gotten to this point where we have, almost 24 people in the company, I've had to learn to be a leader, which has been really hard for me. And it's a complete different set of skills. It's all execution now, right? Like we found product market fit, but now I have to be a leader that, handles disputes, or when people are struggling and need motivation, that I am the cheerleader even when I don't feel great. Or if there's a problem, it's not just about me fixing it, but helping coach people or motivate them to fix it, and communicate trust even when I'm scared and don't really trust people. Sometimes that's been hard, but it's been really good for growth. I'd say those are the challenges I've faced.
That's awesome. And that's perfect. It broke it up into like three very clear, I'd say, lessons. And so with that though, I'm curious, there are different personalities and there are different types of entrepreneurs, I'd say, or business owners maybe. And some people, they like those beginning stages, those scrappy stages where, you're at the trade show, but then there are other stages where the company is bigger. Now you're becoming more of a leader. Have you like had an obvious preference? Do you like those early building stages? Do you like the leader stage?
What a good question. I did like the beginning stage because it was a lot of creativity. Yeah. I really liked that. But I also like this time now because I feel like I have a lot of friends in Baton. The way I lead is probably a little soft. Whoever's listening to this, they might disagree with me, but I don't know. I like coming to work at Baton because everyone I work with, I'm laughing all day when I'm in meetings, and I've been very careful from day one with recruiting Cody. I knew that with me and him, we'd always put people first, and we wouldn't stomp on somebody to get past them or whatever, right? I knew that we would never consider anybody disposable. So I feel like I don't want to say I have a family, right? It's a little cheesy cliche to say that about a company, but I don't know. I find a lot of fulfillment in creating jobs and giving people a work environment that they tell me they enjoy being a part of. Right. So I don't know, but the challenges are so much higher stakes now, but it's also really great that we have revenue and cash flow. Yeah, I'd probably say right now is my favorite. Yeah. Even though I'd miss the creativity. If I want more creativity, I can just go, come up with another business idea on the side. Right. Fun. Yeah, totally. I agree with that. And there is a certain stability that comes with at least knowing that there's revenue coming in and that you have, like you said, now a proven business model that you literally just need to get the word out there. You need to scale. And I feel like that's a great
problem to have. It is a problem and it is like a big issue to solve. But yeah, I agree. I really like the stage where now you're just figuring out how to grow instead of trying to make something from absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's fulfilling
Yeah.
for
Well, that's
sure.
awesome.
It's hard, but it's fulfilling.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Well, perfect. So one last question for you. And I think it's especially powerful just with your journey. Like, not only did you decide to move to Seattle, but you also decided to go all in on this startup company, right? And so, like you said, you were scared. You're not sure if this company's going to make it, but it sounds like you kept at it for quite a while, even just by yourself, and that can be really tough. So, what is your advice to other people in that situation? Like, how do you know? And I know it's a very difficult question, but what is your advice of like, how do you know that you should stick with it, or how do you know if like, okay, this isn't for me, I should pivot away, that kind of thing.
That's such a good question. I've been really lucky because my wife Hannah has been working, since we moved to Seattle. So when she was going through college, I was working, and then when she started her job, I quit to do this business.
Yeah.
And I went more than 2 years without pay. And in fact, I'm not paying myself again because things are tight and we're going through a fundraise and everything.
Yeah.
So my advice is marry somebody who will pay the bills for you while you
Right.
struggle through it. But in all seriousness, my advice would just be, be really, really picky about the ideas you really commit to. But also, once you commit to something, like make sure you validate it to the point where, like, you can kill it as well.
Mm.
Because I mean, there's two problems, right? Some people pick bad ideas and then take it till forever and ever, and it never succeeds. But then there's also
Yeah.
great ideas where people just don't execute well because they get bored or don't stick it through, right? So
Right.
I would probably recommend you take Startup Ignition.
Yeah, there
Anyone
you
who's
go.
listening to this,
I agree with that.
or any sort of boot camp, or just learn a lot of. Just don't be impartial about the ideas you're going after.
Yeah.
But then, with a startup, I'd make sure you are, as efficient with your time as possible, and do the hard things that you don't want to do first. Like, it's scary to talk to customers.
Yeah.
It make you feel vulnerable, but I feel bad sometimes. I talk to some entrepreneurs who want my opinion from stuff, and sometimes I tell them I don't think their idea is very good, and sometimes I don't have the guts to tell them.
Yeah.
But it also, I would love to be proven wrong with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's good or bad until I've tested it. And that's the whole
Right.
point. It's like, usually when people tell me their idea and I think it's bad, it's because they haven't told me anything about their validation or talking to customers yet. So I'm
Right.
just like, okay, well, it's a bad idea because even if it's a great idea, you haven't done the legwork to validate it. So
Yeah.
to me, it's a bad idea still until you tell me that
Right.
you have some sort of traction or fit.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And I mean, the last piece to that is how much, I guess, do you feel like Baton, I don't know, this is kind of a fun hypothetical for you. Do you feel like Baton would have been successful if that was your very first startup? Like, do you feel like having the experience beforehand of every bank bonus led to Baton being more successful?
I think I would have given up.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I hadn't done every bank, had I not started small, I would have given up for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It's just me. I'm sure there are other people out there that wouldn't be the same way. But with Baton, I totally, for my marriage, first off, if I had gone after a big idea with no
Yeah.
experience, I think it would have been a much harder sell for
Mm.
Hannah. But because, I started the scooter club, and I already knew how to build every bank bonus, and she saw that I could recruit people around a cause and do this kind of thing, and that I had done summer sales and could knock doors for 2 summers and be successful at that all on my own in the face
Yeah.
of a lot of rejection. I think all of those kind of built my confidence up over time to be confident enough to tackle this
Yeah.
opportunity. And I learned a lot about validation and team building. I for sure would have made big mistakes with my team had I not had the experience with every bank bonus, for
Yeah.
sure. I probably would have found a co-founder, done a 50-50 split or
Yeah.
something, which is you never ever do. Never ever split a company 50-50 because it causes problems.
Yes.
If you and Eric did that, I'm sorry. but,
We did
but
it in a smart way, but it's similar.
okay. But I know I would have made crucial mistakes, and it would have been a lot harder to get off the ground.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a long answer to your question.
No, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for because I totally agree, and I think there's a few pieces to that. I think your confidence as an entrepreneur, like you mentioned, I think that is very important. And I think even just, there's just skill sets that come, an entrepreneur skill set is different than any other skill set that you learn in college or, any other job. Like actually starting something from nothing is a skill set in its own. And I think it does take practice. And I agree. I think it's very difficult to have, a home run at the very, very first time you try it, right? And so might
Yeah.
as well try it out. Don't expect it to be the next huge thing. Just try to make it successful as it can be, and plan to have a bigger success in the future.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I want to clarify that I did not have a home run at first with every bank bonus. In fact, you might say that it failed because, if you look at the perspective of what we thought, what we set out to do,
Yeah,
and then what it ended up being,
right,
some people might think, well, you failed at your goal.
right.
But with anything in life, a lot of things aren't good or bad.
Hmm.
The only thing that determines how you perceive them is yourself,
Yeah.
right? Things just happen. So, a lot of entrepreneurs talk about their failures, right? Oh, I had
Hmm.
5 businesses that failed, or this, that, or the other. But what does that really mean? Like,
Yeah,
even if they started the business and they closed it down, they still started a success. They still did something.
yeah, totally.
I think that's noble in itself, just
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
So
I
I meet
agree.
a lot of thinkers, especially people who are coders
Mm,
or like developers or really technical,
yeah,
and they have these ideas and they just never get anything off the ground because they don't, launch it or put it out there. But I just, yeah, it is easier to have a home run, but I think it's even better that every bank bonus did not turn out how I wanted it to be.
yeah,
I think that
yeah,
was even better for me. And
yeah.
even with Baton, I see stuff now. I'm
Mm,
like, wow, this is a transactional business model. Wouldn't it be great if there was some sort of network-based company I could start that had a subscription model?
yeah,
That would be
interesting.
better, so more predictable.
Right.
Or, home services is great, but, sometimes our clients, they don't have big budgets because they're these small companies and such. I wonder if there's like next time I'm thinking about ideas that hit, you know, markets that have big deep pockets
Yeah.
and subscription models and network effects,
Yep.
and it's like each time you get better. Just like anything else in
Totally.
life is a skill, entrepreneurship is a skill
Yeah.
that you learn.
Totally. Yeah. I love that. Totally agree. Totally resonate with that. And my final question for you is you did have this job at GreenX for a while, and then you pretty quickly jumped into Baton. And like you said, now you have this skill set of an entrepreneur. Do you ever see yourself going back to a job employed by somebody else, or do you see your whole career being entrepreneurial?
That's a good question. I mean, I would not be opposed to getting a job if I had to pay the bills in the meantime, but I would
Yeah.
always gravitate back toward entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But if there was a solar flare and the internet, was wiped out and Baton was no more,
Yeah.
would I get a job at the local train tracks helping the coal-powered trains go through so I can feed my family, just
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Quite a situation, but yeah, that makes sense. And I agree. Yeah, I like that. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciate it, sharing your journey and sharing what you've learned. Do you have any other last piece of advice you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
No, I think they've probably heard enough from me. If any entrepreneurs out there looking for affordable talent to grow their business, we would not be successful without our amazing virtual assistants that we found through Coconut VA in the Philippines. So, like, just finding affordable, really awesome talent is a huge blessing as a startup company.
Yeah.
And to all of you out there who think that you have to go out and raise millions of dollars so you can, just to hire some people to get an idea off the ground, do not
Yeah.
do that. Please don't. You can validate your idea for free, but then also grow your business with really cheap talent. And that's why a major reason why we've been successful is now the skill set that we have of working with really awesome, amazing, affordable talent. So
Yeah.
thanks, Tyler.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And of course, I agree. It's a resource to have to be able to find good labor. And I really appreciate that. So thank you again, Phil. I appreciate it and excited to release this episode.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. See ya.